In this video, I'm going to show you how to make FU money freelancing. My name is Michael. I built multiple companies into the mid six figures, and now I help other people do the same. Now, to make real money freelancing, the first thing you need to do is establish a strong brand. A lot of freelancers think they have a strong brand because they have a cool logo and they have a nice website and they picked out a really cool font. But at the end of the day, those things are really just aesthetics. And when it comes to building a strong brand, what you need is proof. Proof shows your clients that you can solve their problem, it shows that you've done it before, and it shows that you're less risky than competitors. I would even argue that in freelancing, proof is more important than pretty much everything else, at least when it comes to getting clients. It's one of the easiest things you can do to make your brand stronger, and unfortunately, I see a lot of freelancers just completely skim over this altogether. Now, with that said, what exactly counts as proof? Well, proof can really be anything that shows competence and results. So this can be testimonials, case studies, reviews, screenshots of results, or past clients or projects. Pretty much anything that just shows you are who you say you are and you can do what you say you can do. Without proof, your service just starts to get viewed as a commodity, and the only real way to compete as a commodity is by lowering your price, which, if you're the one selling the service, that's not ever really fun to do. But the thing is, you can't exactly blame people because that's just how shopping habits work. If you were to think about your own buying habits, imagine you were going to buy something on Amazon. If you saw a product with 50 reviews and another product with 5,000 reviews, and assuming they were similar products, you would probably buy the product with more reviews. And you would probably even buy the one with more reviews if it costs more money, simply because people pay more for what feels proven. It feels like a safe bet. You don't really have to do much research. I don't know about you guys, but these days, I don't even look into the products that I buy. If I look up something on Amazon and I see that it has a ton of reviews, I'm just going to assume it's a good product. And the same goes for selling a service as a freelancer. When you have proof, it gives people more trust. And when you have more trust, it allows you to charge higher prices. So this is really the difference between being seen as another freelancer or the safe and obvious choice that the company should definitely go with. I mean, just imagine you're at a company and you're trying to hire a service, and you have this one option who might seem really nice, might be a cool person to talk to, might be friendly, but they don't really have any results. And then you have another service who has a ton of results. You're probably going to go with the one that is proven. And, that's how most people think. The problem is a lot of freelancers think proof is like this nice to have thing, or yeah, we'll get reviews eventually, but it really needs to be seen as essential. And not only that, once you get proof, you need to be reminding clients of it as much as possible. An example I like to give is, imagine if you filmed or edited a video that was used as a Super Bowl commercial. Well, chances are you would probably be reminding people of that every chance you got. You'd be telling people about it in person, you'd be having it on your website, posting it on social media, and it would be at the forefront of your brand. Well, even if you don't have any jobs that are quite of that caliber, you should still be treating whatever proof you do have in the same exact way. So even if it's a small handful of reviews or if it's a really small portfolio, you need to be doing whatever you can to show people that you are who you say you are and you can do what you say you can do. Otherwise, they're just not going to trust you, and it's going to make the whole process that much harder to do. Once you feel like you have a strong brand, now you can start working on your offer. A lot of freelancers, they think they have an offer, but realistically, they just sell a few services. And not only that, I often see them trying to sell it as cheaply as possible because they think the cheaper they sell it, the easier it will be to sell. In reality, when you sell something for cheaper, it really just lowers the perceived value of it. And not only that, I would argue that low prices also attract bad clients and simply just creates more work for you to do. I've had several different companies, and anytime I dealt with something that was cheaper or low ticket, the quality of person was always more difficult, and it really just gave us more work that we didn't necessarily want. What I always like to ask business owners is, do you want more jobs or do you want more money? Because those two things aren't always the same. For example, a $500 project times 20 clients equals $10,000. Not bad. But a $5,000 project times 2 clients also equals $10,000, which to me sounds a lot better. It's literally the same exact revenue, but with 10 times less work. And here's the kicker, high ticket clients are usually easier to work with than low ticket clients. Why? Because people who pay more respect your time, they actually implement your work, and they see you as a strategic partner and not just some cheap vendor. Now, when it comes to structuring your offer, This is something that's going to vary depending on a lot of things. If someone is a video editor, their offer is going to be different from someone who does marketing. And if someone is a web developer, their offer is going to be different than like a copywriter. Regardless of your service though, the main thing you need to focus on is selling outcomes instead of tasks. So what exactly do I mean by this? Well, when it comes to creating an offer, tasks are seen as cheap and outcomes are seen as expensive. So if I say I'll set up your Facebook ads campaigns, that's seen as a cheap task. But if I say I'll get you 100 leads per day, that's seen as an expensive outcome. As a freelancer, you have to stop thinking about what you value and you need to start thinking about what your clients value. When I was running ads for companies, they didn't care if I set up 5 new campaigns and created 10 new ad sets and wrote 3 new ad titles. All they cared about was the leads that they were getting and whether or not they were converting into sales. So you need to start with what the client cares about and then begin to work backwards. When you frame your deliverables as an outcome, clients start to see it as an ROI and not some new cost. Now, you can't just jack up your prices without having any real structure to the offer, but if you do a little bit of tweaking, it's definitely possible to double or triple your prices in a relatively short amount of time. I've worked with dozens of people who came to me with a service that was $100 or $500 or even $1,000, and we were able to help them start charging $3,000, $5,000, or even $12,000 simply by restructuring the offer that they were already working on. This means that they can work less and make more, all while dealing with fewer clients, which to me is pretty much the ideal scenario as a freelancer. Now, to make this whole process a lot easier, you need to do the next step, which is finding a target market. When it comes to clients, it's important to remember that not all clients are equal. Some are worth pennies and some are going to be worth millions. And if your client can't afford you, then no offer structure is going to save you and make the sale possible. Again, this is going to vary depending on what you sell, but there are a few key traits that your target market should have regardless of which industry that you're in. First, they already need to have a need for your product or service. If they don't have a need for you or don't think that they do, then it's going to be much harder to sell to them, even if it's a service that they actually could benefit from. This might sound obvious, but a lot of freelancers waste time trying to convince potential prospects that they need their service. Instead, it's much easier to find someone who already knows that they need your service than to try to convert a new lead that doesn't even think they have a problem that needs to be solved. The second key thing they need is to have a high lifetime value. Someone who's a dentist can make $3,000 to $10,000 per patient. But if someone is a broke musician and they only make $50 per gig, then which one do you think can pay you $5,000 for your services? It's good to think about clients that can afford your prices and could potentially become a repeat customer. That way you can target them specifically. The third key trait is your service needs to tie directly to their revenue. Technically, any service could be tied to a company's revenue if you get creative enough, but the idea is to have a target market that can easily understand how your service is tied to the money that they're making. For example, lawyers, dentists, and e-commerce companies can pay you a lot more than a musician or a small local restaurant. It's not impossible to sell to those types of businesses, but you're better off targeting clients who can afford your services if you're actually trying to make FU money. Keep in mind that your income potential is capped by your client's income potential. So this means you need to find the best opportunities for leverage. If you can find a company doing $500,000 a year and your services increase their income by just 1%, that's an increase of $5,000. But if you work with a company doing $100,000 a year and your services increase their income by 1%, that's only worth $1,000. Business is really just getting paid to solve problems, so you need to solve the most expensive problems that you can. This means if you want to charge $5,000 a month, then you need to find clients where $5,000 isn't seen as a lot of money. Now, the hard part is, how do you get these clients? Well, that is where lead gen comes in. To be completely honest, client acquisition is where most freelancers fail. They try everything for a week, and then they quit, and then they say that it's too saturated. But here's the truth. Every channel works if you commit to it. I've seen people have success with cold emailing, content marketing, paid ads, or even just referrals. But the thing is, each one of these is a skill in and of itself, so they take time to learn and get good at. The key here is to just be consistent. So pick one channel, commit to it for 90 days, and do as much volume as possible. I've seen plenty of people post 5 or 10 videos, not get any traction, and then they give up. But what I've never seen is someone post one video a day for 90 days and not get any results whatsoever. I see way too many people jump from thing to thing to thing, and then they wonder why they don't ever get results. The truth is that pretty much anything can work, but only if you actually stick with it. Now, once you have these other things done, you need to learn how to actually build systems. This is one of the things that I see freelancers struggle with the most. As much as I love freelancing, at the end of the day, freelancing really isn't freedom. As a freelancer, if you stop working, then you stop making money. And it's hard to make FU money if you have to be working nonstop. This is a problem that I had as a freelancer. And what I realized is the way out of this trap is by having leverage. So leverage can either be through people, meaning outsourcing, or it can be systems, meaning automation. And in an ideal scenario, you should be using a little bit of both of these. So when it comes to leveraging people, this simply means hiring other people who can do the work for you. For example, if you're a video editor charging $2,000 per client, at 10 clients, you're making $20,000 a month, but you're most likely dying inside. Instead, you could hire junior editors at $500 per client and then simply review their work. Now you can still pocket $1,500 per client or $15,000 per month, but as a result, you're able to work far less hours. Every early stage business owner seems to think that it's impossible to find someone who can be as good as they are, but I promise you, not only is it possible, but it's relatively easy once you learn how. Sometimes that's a guy fresh out of college who just wants a job, or some guy in a developing country who's been doing it for a decade. Either way, you just need to learn how to outsource. This way, your job can eventually shift to the bigger picture items, which is realistically where it needs to be if you ever want to grow. If you can successfully manage to do these things, then there's no reason that you won't make FU money. And if you need help with any of this, then just click the link below and we'll see if it's a good fit.